Just before we start, so everyone has a criminal complaint. We're not going to go through the whole investigation or anything, but Deputy Chief Cecily Barker just wanted to comment a little bit on the case, talk a little bit about trends, and mostly we're just here to answer any questions you might have. Okay. And it is ongoing, so we still may not be able to discuss certain facts.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Like Gilbert said, we know that you each have a copy of the complaint. We want to talk a little bit about trends and what we're seeing as a department and how we're addressing things. I have to start by thanking the detectives for working tirelessly throughout the last week on this case. I was out there that morning. I recognize how hard this was on our officers as well as our detectives to see a child pass away. One of our uniformed officers actually attempted life-saving measures. Unfortunately, we know that the child did not make it. Galilea Samaniego is her name. She was 5 years old. We hate seeing cases like this as a department and as a community. We need to start coming together to address these changes. When we responded to the scene, we determined early on that a teenager who lived at that residence was the target of the shooting. We do not believe that the shooting was random. As we looked into it, this individual, as you all know, there was a SWAT call out at the same trailer months earlier, and that was in reference to a separate homicide investigation. Although this juvenile was not the offender in that homicide, he was interviewed as part of that investigation. We also served a search warrant that evening at the residence, and we believe that this is an ongoing dispute between teenagers and juveniles within our community. When we responded to the scene that day, we wanted to make sure to get the community and the media information in reference to the call. What we did not share at that time is that we did have information about Kia Souls, which was key to this investigation. Video from the RTCC and Ring cameras in the area showed that there was 2 Kia Souls that were following each other. I think we all know that that is not a common thing for 2 vehicles to be following each other, the same type of vehicle that early in the morning. As Chief mentioned a few weeks ago, Kia and Hyundais are commonly targeted by auto thieves. So he immediately asked us to look into what Kias had been stolen and what Kias were still not recovered by the department. We immediately put that word out to our field officers and began looking into all Kias that were stolen. Once again, social media played a key role in this investigation. As detectives identified potential suspects and connections into prior shootings, our analysts were able to make additional connections through their social media accounts. License plates readers also played a role in this investigation. We were able to confirm that the 2 Kias involved in this incident were stolen earlier that morning. We were also able to relate this to other Kias that had been stolen and used in other incidents throughout the city. We want to thank the neighbors in the area and the community that came together and provided home surveillance that helped us to solve this case. When we're talking about juvenile crime, we have 3 homicides this year where juveniles were suspects. 3 of these cases involved 3 juveniles that were victims this year. What we want to talk about is I have Deputy Commander Jason Janopoulos here to talk about our VIP program, and that's violence intervention. We do what is called custom notifications, and we reach out to individuals who have been involved in shootings. Like I said, what we're seeing in this incident is a group of juveniles that have been arguing with each other, shooting at each other, and we were able to tie casings to several incidents that involved the same juveniles. I'll let Deputy Commander Janopoulos talk about the custom notifications and what that looks like, but I want you each to know that we're trying to work with the community, especially juveniles who are involved in crime. We're providing them resources and opportunities to change their lives. Unfortunately, sometimes they don't take that opportunity, and we will make arrests on this case. As Gilbert said, we have 2 juveniles that have been arrested. There are currently 2 outstanding, and we're asking the community to come forward with information on them. We are also going to continue to look at evidence, and anyone else that is involved in this incident will be brought to justice. And I will turn this over to Deputy Commander Janopoulos to talk about VIP.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. So one of my functions with the career criminal section with the Investigative Services Division is overseeing the violence intervention program. So the violence intervention program is based on focused deterrence. Focused deterrence is where we look for individuals who are driving gun violence, particularly here in Albuquerque, as well as hotspots. And then what we need to do is when we find those locations, we make sure that we're putting resources in those locations to try and trend down the gun violence. As to the custom notifications, on a weekly basis, the Albuquerque Police Department holds a meeting in which we talk about the shootings and the homicides that occurred over the past week. It is from that meeting that we identify individuals who are responsible for gun violence in Albuquerque. Those individuals are then selected, a background is done, a detective looks into it, talks to the investigating detectives and finds out if it's okay for us to go out and go talk to them and deliver an anti-gun violencing message. A lot of times these custom notifications are due to the fear of possible retaliation when we have these small groups of gangs who are kind of going back and forth with the gun violence. So we try to identify those individuals and we try to step in the middle of that and deliver an anti-retaliation message, as well as talk to them about the consequences of gun violence. There's really only 3 consequences that can occur. These individuals can be shot, they can end up in prison, or they could be killed. However, we go out with ACS, Albuquerque Community Safety, their social services coordinators, and what we try to do is we try to introduce to them alternatives to that lifestyle that they're in, the gun violence lifestyle. What we do is we offer them services. Some of those services could be as simple as getting their GED, job training, therapy if they need it. And we try to really emphasize to those individuals the advantages of taking advantage of those resources that we're offering. However, we go out, we go talk to individuals. Not everybody takes us up on those resources. So then what we need to do is we need to focus on those individuals and use that focused deterrence, where we try to step in and if we need to put together good investigations. A lot of times when we go and talk to these individuals, the reason why it's called a custom notification is we look into their background and see what they've been involved in. And we try to deliver to them and talk to them. And me going out and talking to individuals just by myself would not work. Without the social services coordinators and some community partners that come out with us, that's where we're able to talk to individuals and allow individuals to see the positive side of taking these resources. And there's a lot of things that we can offer. Like I said, though, unfortunately, only probably about 1/4 of those individuals are taking those resources. So what we need to try and do is reconvey to the public at large is that there are alternatives to that. We have resources in which we can extend to you to help change your life and put it on a positive trajectory instead of a negative trajectory. Just delivering the messaging, it puts a lot of people on notice that the police department is aware that they're involved in this type of activity and it's not going to be accepted. So like I had said, we set up these meetings weekly, we talk to our investigators, and we look for the best possible individuals. A lot of these individuals are involved in groups. Traditionally, in the past, we used to call them gangs, but we're seeing that there is a trend where there's these gangs are becoming more and more fractionalized and smaller in nature. So we need to kind of address that small core group of individuals to try and step in and stop the proliferation of gun violence. So. Sure.
Absolutely.
So you said, of course, only 1/4 of the people who you approach with these custom notifications actually accept the services. So after they don't accept services, is there multiple touches like we talked about with our homeless community, or do they stay on the back burner as you weekly come up with new people, or what happens there?
So what we try to do is if we talk to an individual that doesn't take those services, we look into those individuals that are associated with that individual as well. And we try to go out and talk to those individuals too, to try and win over one of them. One of the things that we started doing is talking to individuals that are already facing criminal charges and just delivering the message to them so they can get that information out. If it's just to one of their friends and it can kind of change that trajectory, it will have an impact within the city of Albuquerque. A lot of times when we do go out and talk to these individuals, there are times when we have to go back and try and talk to them again. It's hard to, convey a different messaging, because ultimately what we want them to do is stop the gun violence one way or the other. And we try to emphasize that when we're talking to them. If you keep on this path, you're going to end up in one of those three things that I said: shot, killed, or in jail. And we don't want to see that. So ACS does a great job. We go out with individuals that have lived experience, and they're able to connect with those individuals. Sometimes these individuals start in the program and then they kind of move away from it. I do know that ACS goes out there and tries to re-engage those individuals and get them to try and accept those services. So I hope that answers your question.
Do you have a number on how many teens you have on that list of people you want to? I know their school-based VIP only helps, maybe 24 kids at West Mesa, but are there teens on the regular VIP list also?
Yeah, yes, there are. So when we do deliver to teenagers, we do deliver with either a guardian or a parent that being there. We found that it's very successful when mom is there, grandma is there, dad is there, and they get that messaging. But the fact that they're juveniles is the reason why we deliver to their parents, within their parents' presence. I couldn't give you an exact number as to the amount of juveniles we've delivered to. The age range from 17 to 26 is usually where we're delivering a lot of the custom notifications to. So,
is it clear that you need to deliver more?
We are definitely delivering. So we are trending at 50% higher than last year in delivering custom notifications. So we are definitely getting out there and delivering more custom notifications. We're also planning what we call a call-in. So the call-in is where we bring groups and drivers of gun violence in and talk to them and try to deliver the messaging to the group that they're involved with. So we found in the past that has helped, and we're hoping. In the past with COVID, we kind of had to do it kind of like an enhanced custom notification. This time we're able to bring them into our central location, let them hear the different voices from the community, people who have lost individuals, people who have been incarcerated, listening to the mayor, the chief deliver messaging to them so that they can see that there's an alternative. However, with the call-in, we do push that focused deterrence, that if a group of individuals if someone from that group of individuals messes up and they're involved in gun violence or violent activities, we definitely come down on them harder and make sure that we are looking at them and arresting them when we can, and definitely getting out in the community where they're involved to let people see our faces and give us input as to what's affecting them on a daily basis. So.
Can I add on to that? You guys mentioned the West Mesa program, and I know there was talks earlier this year of expanding that to other schools and even middle schools. Do you guys have any update on that and expanding to different schools?
So I know ACS is in talks with other schools to actually bring that to other schools. I believe shortly they'll probably be bringing on another high school online. But we've also gone out to West Mesa with the Violence Intervention Program, both APD and ACS, and talked to the whole student body. We stayed there a total of 2 days. We did all kind of talks with different, the whole student body, and we deliver the messaging to them. And a lot of things that the kids don't realize is that, getting shot isn't just either shaking it off or being killed by it. You could have lasting effects, and we try to bring individuals in there that can convey that messaging. So.
I have another question on, do you have a number on how many homicides total have involved teens so far this year?
We have a number, but I would like to provide that to you all.
I think 3, but
Right.
let me verify that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I also, can you share how the teen in the trailer, the teen in the trailer was connected or related to in any way 5-year-old Galilea?
There were different families that were residing and or staying inside of that trailer.
Okay, so they weren't cousins, brother, sister, can you say anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, gotcha, so different families.
Mhm.
And the teen was there the night of the shooting, though, right?
Yes.
And can you just give us a more clear timeline? I know you mentioned obviously the SWAT standoff that was at the trailer earlier this year in 2023 that
Yes.
happened. And then I know in the news release there was some connection of a homicide investigation involving some of these same teens a year ago. Can you just give us some more clarification on what those cases are? I know you mentioned there's maybe multiple that the casings were connected to also.
So there's several cases that we believe are connected in reference to different groups of juveniles. I don't want to go into detail about them just because they are active. We were able to tie these cases together with casings that have been left on scene. So that goes back to shot spotter calls where officers are picking up casings from scenes, projectiles from different homicides and shootings. And that is really what allowed us to start to piece together these cases. Our gun violence teams are working very closely with homicide to try and close these cases. Oftentimes what we're seeing is the victims do not want to cooperate. Specifically one of the cases related to this, when we looked back, we had 4 victims and each one of them did not want to cooperate at that time. What we're hoping to do with VIP and identifying these cases now is going back out and talking to these juveniles and again, trying to help them make that commitment to change their lives. Just like Deputy Commander Giannopoulos said, the last thing we want to see is juveniles be killed or hurt or continue to injure each other. So that is what we're really trying to work with VIP right now.
Do we know how these kids got a hold of the weapons? Are they stolen? Do we not know yet?
We don't have that information yet.
And I want to ask you too, of course we've had a tragic streak, it seems like, of violence involving teens this summer. So it's obviously very touchy in the community, touchy for you guys, I'm sure. In your opinion, is this just what it looks like, an unfortunate streak, or is this kind of our new normal in the city until things like VIP and other things really start to gain some momentum and change the mindset?
It's unfortunate. I can say that our shootings involving juveniles has decreased since last year, as well as our homicides involving juveniles. Right now there's a streak in the summer, and sometimes we see that with school starting back up. We might see that as well. Always in the summer we see an increase in homicides and shootings, and we will continue to do everything we can, whether that be VIP. If people don't want help, the resources that we offer them, then we intend to continue to work with our federal partners to make arrests. We are part of PSP, and we actually are looking at other counties and what they're doing with juveniles. It's a hard age because we want to see reform. We want to see them do better.
And going back to the guns, I know you guys know in this case specifically not how they got them just yet, but in general, like with these past cases and this violent streak Julie mentioned, can you talk a little bit about, like, in those past cases that have already been solved, how those teens are getting their guns?
We've seen several things. We see stolen firearms, unfortunately. Oftentimes people leave firearms in vehicles. We're seeing a lot of them come from auto burglaries. Sometimes they pass several hands, and the history there, the length of time, we don't really know how it ended up in their hands. It's not reported stolen. Other times the firearms belong to parents. It's really all over the board.
So just going back to kind of hone in on these teens specifically. So there was a dispute over a girl between Jose Luis Ramirez and the teenager who was the original target. And in this release, it sounds like this dispute is believed to be connected to other drive-by shootings. Can you just give us the scale of how much violence or shootings has been kind of precipitated by this particular dispute among these 2 teenagers?
This particular dispute has a handful of cases that are related to each other. And like I said, we're able to confirm that based on casings and projectiles that are left at the scene. So we are working closely with VIP and our gun violence teams to focus on both groups. They're both involved.
Both sides of that.
Correct.
And obviously there's a big emphasis today on VIP and giving us more information about that. Is there anything else, in your eyes that could be a good driver for change besides this VIP program?
We would like to see victims cooperate. We are seeing so many juveniles, like I said, on these cases that don't want to cooperate and will not tell detectives who did this to them. Sometimes that's because of fear, and we recognize that, but that's why we have resources, and we're really trying to reach out and provide them those resources. One thing that we're also looking at as well is Crime Stoppers. We don't receive a lot of tips from juveniles. We didn't receive a lot of tips initially in this case. Younger generations might not know to call 843-STOP or 242 cops to report information. So that's why we're working on getting VIP in the schools, and we also want to look at Crime Stoppers that would be specific to the high schools and the middle schools. And we're really just focusing on getting our officers out there and trying to make those community connections so people feel safe coming to us when they have information.
If I may. We've been able to go out with VIP with individuals who aren't cooperating and get them to understand the reasoning behind cooperating. We've had some success with the VIP program, talking to individuals and who then decide to cooperate with the investigations. And we've seen that trending over the last year or so that we've been delivering. One of the things that we look at when we were looking at the shooting reviews, if the individual who is a victim is cooperating with the investigation. And if they're not cooperating with the investigation, yeah, it's a good chance for VIP to go out and go talk to them, you know, and see what we can do to get them, like we've talked about before, on the right trajectory, doing well in society, but also to convey the message, like, we really can't do anything without cooperation, so.
Would you describe these teenagers as being in gangs or associated with gangs?
We were actually talking about this earlier, and this is going to age me a little bit, but when I came on the department, gangs were, you knew who was in a gang and you knew what they were doing. And what we're seeing with these juveniles, it's groups of teens that are hanging out. They're loosely associated maybe with old school gangs, so to speak, but it's groups of kids that are hanging out and have beefs with each other. Social media is playing a huge role into this. We've talked about how it used to be you'd have an argument and it would be over and kind of settle, but now it's on social media for everybody to see and everybody to continue to start bringing up. So that's what we're seeing with juveniles.
And do you just have a message for the general public? I know in this case, there were obviously 2 homes that were targeted, an innocent victim dead because of it. That could have been anyone though, right? Let's say they have the wrong house and they shoot up the wrong house or something like that. Do you have a message for the general public when we're dealing with this issue?
If you see something, say something. I think we all bear responsibility in this community. If you have kids in your neighborhood who you know might be struggling, please reach out to them. Let's work together as a community to come together and fight violent crime, especially when it involves our youth. I think we owe it to each other. Yes, sir.
Do you have a message for guardians and parents?
I think, like I said, we need to come together. I am a mother of a teenager, and I would like to think that I know what she's always doing. The reality is I probably don't. But get involved in your children's lives. Find out what they're doing. Talk to their friends. Get to know who they're hanging out with. If they're not at home or if you're concerned about them, look out for resources. Reach out to us. Like I said, VIP, the department, we're here to help you as well. So let's come together as a community and work on this.
And I guess the last question I have, these 2, the original target and Jose Luis Ramirez, who were the 2 in the dispute, they're still both outstanding. How much of an effort are police putting into finding this suspect, and is like potential violence possible given that both these 2 are out?
I think there's always potential for violence. We are actively looking for them and following up on all leads that we have. So again, I would encourage anybody with any information on their whereabouts to report to us. Before we finish, again, I just want to thank my teams, my commanders who are here. Detectives work tirelessly throughout the week. I know I said that already, but I really want to reiterate how hard they worked, how hard VIP worked to go out and make notifications to individuals involved, our professional staff who are looking at social media constantly and providing information, as well as our federal partners. U.S. Marshals was out that day, and ATF is always stepping up and willing to help us. So, thank you.